Hey guys, Dr. C here, and I am back to give you another journal style update on our house build and the status of that. Sorry, it's been a while since my last update. Our life has been pretty chaotic, to say the least, over the past 2 months, I would say. And so I'm just getting a chance to do this to give you guys a good update. So, picking up where I left off with my last update. In our last update, we had finally gotten a bid from our builder for our original plan set for what we thought we wanted to build, and it came in too high, quite a bit higher than we wanted it to. And so we went back to the drawing board. We came up with a number of other plans. For us, the greatest expenses in the original plan set were the enormous size of the slab we were pouring because we were trying to connect three buildings on one slab, and the enormous size of the roof because we were trying to connect three buildings under one roof. And in addition to that, a very unconventional style of roof on an unconventional style of wall system and in an area with pretty high wind loads. And so that requires you to engineer the roof very well. And so those were the things that were making it too expensive. So we went back to the drawing board and by ourselves came up with a number of different ways to reduce those costs. So we came up with ways where the buildings were smaller. We came up with ways where we had two buildings instead of three, and they had disconnected roofs and slabs. And we did all of this floor planning designing ourselves in a software called ArcSight. That is a design software that I found a while ago that has been incredibly user-friendly. We picked a lot of it up without any tutorials. We did end up watching a few tutorials online to learn a few things that we weren't really getting, we weren't really understanding. But yeah, it's been really great. It has allowed us to really make sure that whatever we are designing or the architect designs is really fitting our needs in terms of, can this size bedroom fit a queen bed and a nightstand and a closet and a chair? Or can this bathroom fit the size clawfoot bathtub we want to have? When you are designing something, you really need to make sure that everything you need to be in that space fits in that space. And that doesn't really apply when you're designing some huge luxury home that has like enormous kitchen, bath, and everything else. But for us, we are trying to design something pretty small for cost savings and because we don't want to take care of a huge building and we don't want a huge mortgage. And there are a lot of things we actually have grown to very much like about a more minimalist lifestyle, which we've grown into through RV life. So ArcSight has allowed us to do that more minimalist floor planning and make sure we actually had enough space for what we needed. So we did that, and then we were going back to the builder and trying to get him to give us new bids on these three different plan sets. And basically, it just kept taking too long and taking too long and taking too long. And so we kept getting more and more nervous and, kind of biting our fingernails and going, oh my gosh, if we don't figure this out soon, we're not going to build a house this year. And part of that is because with these plan sets, they were custom. We were designing them. Nobody had already made architectural plans from them. And so we would have then, after getting the bid in range, have needed to go back to our architect and have him actually make customized architectural plans out of that. And then because we are using this interesting perlite block system for the walls, we would then need the perlite block manufacturer to convert those plans through their architect and engineering team into their block system, which means that the plans are basically converted into a Lego block instruction set because they have different types of blocks and they all fit together and click together in this perfect little way. And so they give you like this color coded diagram of which different blocks you have and how to put them together perfectly for your plan set. And so both of those processes, our architect told us it would take him 4 to 6 weeks to get us finalized plans on any of the new ideas that we had for what we wanted. And then the System 3E perlite block manufacturer said it would also take their architectural and engineering team probably about 6 weeks to convert them. And so we were like, oh my gosh, the timeline is really getting pushed out here. And then on top of that, you need those finalized plans in order to go to the bank and get your loan if you're going to be financing the cost of the build. And then you need your loan in order to start ordering materials, and the blocks, which are coming from Poland, will take 6 to 8 weeks to get to our site, to our build site. So you see what I'm saying here about how it was just starting to creep out into the summer, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, we're not gonna get it done." So what we did, because we really want a house to live in this winter, and we really aren't that picky, honestly, we just want safe long-term housing that meets all of our basic needs. So we went back to the drawing board. We went back to System 3E, the perlite block manufacturer's website, and they actually have some pre-designed plans of different sizes. None of the bigger buildings really worked for us. We really need a building that would allow for 2 bedrooms, 2 offices, ideally 2 bathrooms. We could have gotten away with 1, and then a kitchen and whatnot. And none of their bigger plans really allowed for both working and sleeping space for both of us. So we looked at their smaller plan sets, and we thought we could make one of their smaller pre-designed architectural plan sets work for us with a few modifications to the interior walls, which is not a big deal for them. That doesn't require re-engineering. And so we went back to them and we said, "Hey, we think we'd like to just do these pre-designed plans so that we can move things along." And they said, "Well, did you know we actually have a few other pre-designed plans that are not on the website? You know, like, we've been working on creating web pages for them, but would you like to see them?" And we said, "Yes." And they showed us another 3 different plans that were pre-designed, and we found one of them would work really well for us for a living space for 1 person. And so what we decided to do is go with 3 buildings of their pre-designed plans, and that will allow us to speed up the timeline dramatically. The only thing that needs to be done with those is, again, we're adjusting some interior walls, which was not a big deal for them at all. The main change we needed to make is that we are trying to do this very unusual roof system, which I described in my video where I'm talking about the choices that we're making in our build for more mold resistance. So we're doing hollow core concrete slabs and then a very simple gable roof system on top of that, an insulated gable roof system for optimal mold resistance for our home. And so the perlite block manufacturer, their architectural and engineering team said, "Oh, no problem. We can totally do that update for you. And you won't have to get your architect, your other architect to do that. We have architects and engineers who can do that for you." So we just skipped a whole 4 to 6 weeks of dealing with our other architect. And actually, because it's such a minimal change for them to make, they are going to be able to do that for us in less than 2 weeks. So that's pretty incredible. And so these 3 buildings, like, each building is basically gonna have a living room combined with an office, and then a bathroom and a bedroom. And so we'll have 2 of those, and then a 3rd building that's going to have the kitchen, laundry, and utilities. And so the hot water heater and the boiler for the hydronic radiant floor heating system and the main electrical panel and the main Ethernet switch and all that stuff will be centralized to the utility building. And then the pipes and the electrical conduit and all that will be run under the ground to supply both of the other buildings. And that, yeah, that should work quite well and reduce the chance of some other unfortunate events that could have happened in terms of water leakage from hot water heaters if we had had them in our individual units, and also the hydronic heat boiler. It will reduce EMFs in the main living spaces by having the main panel in a different building, all that kind of good stuff. So that's where we are. We are waiting now for the redesign from System 3E, and we are working with our builder on basically creating a site plan. So that means that everything that needs to be done to the site itself, other than the actual architectural plans of the building, our builder said he could help us with. So that's things like building up the site that we're gonna build on because we have a relatively flat lot. So in order to get the slopes away from each of the buildings on all sides that we need so that water drains away from their foundations, we need to build that up before they actually start doing the foundation. And that needs to be done with engineered fill, which I just learned more about today from one of my healthy building consultants, which I'm gonna give you guys more of an update on that soon too. Things like that, and then we are wanting to have some fencing done as part of the build and some patio put in place as well, some things like that, which you can actually finance those aspects of a build as well. We didn't know that. We thought that everything outside of the building itself would not be able to be financed, but actually you can finance those kinds of things. We're also probably gonna have a carport and an external metal garage for storage of dirty stuff and outdoor gear and whatnot. And those things can actually be wrapped into the construction loan as well. So, in order for those things to be wrapped into the construction loan, though, you need them to be planned in and you need the builder to put them in the bid that the bank is actually approving. So, there needs to be a line item for landscaping and external modifications, grading, and excavations, all that kind of stuff. They need their own line items so that the bank knows what they're paying for and can approve those extra costs. So we're working with him on that. My husband is a surveyor. That's part of what he is trained to do. And so he's actually going to be surveying our lot, doing a topographical survey of the lot, hopefully this weekend. And that will show us really the detailed sloping of our lot, which is recommended by all of the healthy home building consultants I have talked to. And it's just a good thing to know of like, where is water going to be coming from and going towards your home? Where is it going to be flowing away? And how do you need to design drainage appropriately for that? Because we're going to have 3 buildings, drainage is a little bit more complicated. It may have been less so had we gone with single slant roofs, but I didn't really know how to do that, so we're doing gable roof system. And so that means that the water is gonna be draining off each roof on 2 sides, right? So on one side of each building, the water is gonna be draining towards the other building, but there's gonna be gutters that are gonna carry it out and away from all 3 buildings. So there will be some rain that falls in between the 2 buildings, and we just wanna make sure that that drains away from both buildings. So we essentially have to make a little drainage pit in between the buildings, and then we're probably gonna put a French drain there that is sure to carry, if we get any large amounts of rain, away from all the buildings and out towards the, um, lower side of the lot. And because that is where we want our fenced, grassed backyard to be for our dogs, we're probably gonna have to drain that into a dry well. So anyways, yeah, so working on the site plan and all those kinds of things. What else? Let's see. We are actually back on the lot now, which is great because since we selected those pre-designed plans that we decided to go with, we were actually able to say, okay, well, where do these pre-designed plans fit optimally on our lot and in relation to the septic system? So this is one of the downsides of not putting in your own septic system is that once a septic system is in, there are really good places to put your house and not so good places to put your house because ideally you want to be uphill from the septic system. You want a nice down slope so that all of those liquids and solids that are coming out and going into your septic drain really well away from your house so you don't have backups, right? And so we bought this lot, the septic was already here, and we didn't actually think too much about how that would affect where we had to place the building at the time. Definitely, I wanted to put the building somewhere that would not have been convenient for drainage into the septic that actually may have been a little bit downhill of the septic. So when we got back to the lot, we reassessed that and we were like, ooh, yeah, no, that's probably not going to work. We need to go with a different site on the lot. And so we ended up taking those little marker flags that have like tiny little flags, bright colors, short stems, and we marked out the size and shape of our build plan of all 3 buildings in a location upstream of the septic where it was also avoiding other things that had already been installed, like power lines and water lines and things like that that were already here. And then we were able to get the builder to come by and say, "Hey, this is where we think is probably the optimal place to put the house. What do you think? Do you agree?" etc. And he was able to confirm that that was definitely the best place to put it. And so all these kinds of things are moving a lot faster and easier now that we are back at the lot. Lots of things we just couldn't do, like the survey or the site planning, the actual location of the build and the site plan, all those kinds of things we couldn't really do until we were back here. Because as you know, we were very far away. We were in California, we were in Arizona, many, many hours away from our site, and it just wouldn't have been easy to drive up to get those kinds of things done. So it was lucky that the weather warmed up way earlier than usual this year. We were planning to be up at the lot, I think April 1st or maybe mid-April. That usually the freezing nighttime temps here don't stop until sometime in April, not necessarily the beginning of April, sometimes mid-April. But actually, there was a major heat wave, which I think the whole western part of the US experienced, and Arizona was getting up into the hundreds in mid-March. And so we came up then, and it was perfect weather here. So that all worked out very serendipitously. Let's see, what else do you need to know about what's happening here? Yeah, like I said, once we get the updated architectural and engineered plans from System 3E, the folks that made the original plan set, then we can take those and the bid from our builder for those plans, which he is working on now simultaneously, and we can take those for financing. We're already able to start the financing process in terms of getting them, like my husband's W-2 and other basic information already there so that once we have the plans and the bid, everything is just good to go. We can just press go and get approved for the financing that we need. And the block that's coming from Poland, once we place the order, so we have to get the financing go through first, then we can place the order for the block. And it usually takes them only a week to put all the block on pallets and put those pallets in shipping containers, and then they're ready to ship. And then the shipping all the way over here to the middle of the US will take about 6 to 8 weeks to get to us. So during that time, because we will already have the detailed architectural plans, we can be building up the site, we can be pouring the slab foundation. We're doing footer, stem wall, and then slab foundation, with the hydronic heating system in it and the plumbing that needs to go through it and electrical and all that. All of that can be done while we're waiting for the blocks to show up so that the foundation has time to dry to some degree before we start putting the walls up. Let's see, what else? I made some notes of things I should talk about with you guys today. I'm going to make another video, and this will be a pretty short video, but I'm going to make another video soon about the healthy home consultants that I've had consultations with and the courses that I have taken that have really helped me to get some of the details ironed out, even of this very unusual build that we're trying to do. There are still things that, even if you're using an alternative wall system or an alternative roofing system, absolutely apply still, that you will learn from some of these mold safe building courses or consultants. So things especially related to the foundation, site drainage, location of your build site, EMF mitigation, I don't know, lots and lots of things. How to properly seal windows and doors as you put them in, all kinds of good stuff is in those courses. And so I want to talk a little bit about what I've learned there and share some more resources for you guys so you can tap into those as well if you are thinking about going down this road of building your own mold safe, healthy home. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. And I will post another video soon, but this is all the updates I have for you now. All right, see you in the next video.